Now it's time for a little car porn during COVID lockdown. Let's have a look at the 2021 Toyota Supra GTS. Now we've reviewed Supra several times in the past, but it's had a few little upgrades since we first drove it. First of all, the engine now has an extra 35 kilowatts. There's been a few other bits and bobs, some bracing and so forth, so let's have a look at that. Give the bonnet release 2 pulls, and that'll release it. Don't do what we've done in the past and try and reach under the bonnet to let it go. And rather interestingly, the bonnet line cuts across the top of the mudguard. So you just reach in and raise it up. It's on struts, thank goodness. It is, as all modern engines are, just a whole bunch of pipes and a fancy cover. Here's an interesting place to fill your washer fluid, right here down in the actual mudguard. And it would be remiss not to mention these fantastic lights. And on the top model, those lights are not only automatic, but they dim just the bit in front of the car that's coming on in front of you. And they work really well. We tried that the other night. They've tried lots of things to try and make this a bit lighter. And this bonnet, look at that, is as light as a feather. And one finger can close it. And of course this GTS model has the larger 225/35 ZR19 tyres on these beautiful 19-inch alloys. With every second spoke polished, I think that looks sensational. And peeking through, just in case you forget you're in a Supra, there's more Supra badging. The thing about this car is it's incredibly low to the ground. Have a look at this. That's barely a couple of knuckles. That's not very much ground clearance. And the front also gives you code brown moments every time you approach a gutter. Naturally, it has smart entry and lock, and you just pull the door handle open to get in. Here's the funny thing. If you want to get into the boot, there's only 2 ways. There is no external release for it, which I think is just bizarre. But have a look at this. You either have to press this button down here low on the driver's door, or use the key fob. Imagine that you've come home and you've got a whole bunch of groceries, you know, like you usually do, and as I've been doing this week. So you come around to the car and, you know, you can't get into the car. There's no button here. So you want to fumble for the key in your pocket? I don't think so, because it's not going to be in your pocket, it's going to be somewhere inconvenient. So you have to schlep around to the door if you don't want to go to the key, and then try and open it with your hands full of groceries. I mean, to me that just seems bonkers. Why not just put like a gesture control or something like that on the outside? You know, we can wave your foot or something. Why have absolutely nothing? Inside, as I've shown you before, the boot is reasonably shallow, but it takes a couple of decent sized bags. And the seats don't fold down because there's only 2 seats. Inside is pretty much as you'd expect this joint Toyota BMW project to be. The seats are absolutely beautiful. This leather is very hard, but it feels like it's going to be comfortable on a long trip. There's a part digital dash. Let me start the car. And when it starts up, all of your information pops up on it. As well, there's a heads-up display. There's some memories for the driver's seat, and the driver's door has more of the red leather. Lovely soft feel. Not very many controls, but above all, the boot button. There's some physical buttons for the lights, which of course, as I said, are fully automatic. The wiper controls, which are fully automatic. Steering wheel paddles, audio controls, and these are the active cruise control controls. Now when you start the car, you must press OK to confirm out of the confirmation screen. And look, this is so much easier to use now that the infotainment system is a touch screen. Now bear in mind, this is the previous generation of BMW infotainment systems. Down below the one touch buttons, which of course are touch sensitive as well as press, and you can store anything on those you like. As you can see, I've got DAB stores in favourites. Now those favourites are not these favourites, but they can be if you want. It's very confusing. Of course, there's the stop start, the automatic climate control, which of course has 2 zones. There's a wireless charger for your phone, a USB point, and if I can get it in, the plug for my navman, which is now switching on. Now, oddly, if I turn the car off, that stays on. Don't know why. There's the pistol grip for the 8-speed automatic. Even though this is a touchscreen, these controls can also be used, and that's a scratch pad, so you can use that like a mouse. As well, it twists and toggles. You can see around it there's an array of buttons. The parking and safety systems, the sport button, and the stop-start on and off. There is just one reservation. This, even though I've got tons of headroom, is fairly low. So you can see that comes up to my eyes. Now, I've got the seat set fairly low as well, but nonetheless, I still scrape this bolster. I still scrape this bolster getting in. Now, the bolsters are also adjustable along with the lumbar support, but nonetheless, it's going to wear the leather out in that particular spot. Always a problem I've got with sports cars. Before we set off on the road, I want to try not to put anything tall in the cups because, as you can see, it's right where your arm goes. And even something the size of my vape takes up the space, and I've got to kind of stuff this stuff in there. Again, not in sport. Very gentle takeoff, but it doesn't take much. Think about this for a minute. 285 kilowatts is Commodore V8 territory, or at least before they supercharge them. Now I'm at the speed limit, so I'm going to press the sport button, and it's dropped back a few gears. That beautiful 8-speed automatic dropped back a couple of gears, and the steering's gotten a little bit tighter. As you go into tight corners, you can feel how really super taut that fabulous chassis is. Now remember, this is also a BMW. It's a BMW Z4. In Toyota though, you get just one engine choice, and that's plenty. I think to put an underpowered 4-cylinder in this would have been a travesty. Supra goes back a long way. The earlier Celica versions I used to love. Tight corner coming up, and I'm doing that at the limit. So I can feel every single undulation in this road, and it feels fantastic. The steering is unbelievably precise. If you turn, the car heads in that direction immediately. Quick dab of the brakes. Shifts down a gear. Now I haven't tried any of the paddle shifters yet, but I shall do that in a minute. No, really I don't need to. This is doing a great job on its own. I've got to say, in the corners this feels so nimble. It is unbelievably light. Wow. And the sound from that straight six is just extraordinary. At low speeds, when you're going through a car park, you can hear just this lovely whistle if you've got the windows down. Little jig, lovely. Oh, this is just sensational. Wow. It's almost psychic. And now that we've come down to a sane pace and we're out of sports mode, this is no more difficult to drive than a family hatch. It's got beautiful manners. The suspension, the taut suspension, is something that you either like or you don't. You can't like it a little bit. I've got to the stage in life, where I've gotten a little bit bigger around the middle. My size 32 pants are a long way from fitting, and I've got more chins than a Chinese phone book. And so taut suspension doesn't have the appeal to me that it once did. I've had to pull over to make a couple of little adjustments. All right. God, Jesus. And I'm at 110. The pickup, even in not sports mode, is extraordinary. I've turned my cruise control on and I press set. And now it has seen the speed sign, whether that comes from the camera or from navigation, I'm not sure. It asked me if I wanted to set the cruise control to that speed, and now it is at that speed. Here's the interesting thing. This says I'm doing 110, but my navman is telling me I'm doing 105. And that's all for the Toyota Supra GR GTS. There is simply nothing bad to say about this car apart from those one or two little foibles, but you know what? I don't care. I really don't care. This thing is absolutely brilliant and worth every penny. If you've liked the film, hit like, leave a comment, and just there to subscribe.